Now at 9, you can now finally file your tax for 2022. We'll hear from a local expert about available tax credits. Plus, the Joplin School District announces a pilot program to help kids transition into kindergarten. And
new reaction from lawmakers, including frustration from within his own party after more classified items were found at President Biden's home. I'm Lauren Blanchard in Washington. The latest details coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jalen Banks. The 4 states could see several inches of snow in the coming days. We go straight to meteorologist Sam Lane with the first look at the weather.
Thank you very much, Jalen. Yeah, we're looking at a very high potential of significant snow and accumulations across the area. In fact, winter storm warnings are in effect here in the pink area. That includes Lawrence, Berry, Newton, and McDonald counties. And looking at some of the latest data, I wouldn't be surprised if this gets moved back further to the north and west, including Jasper County. We'll have to wait and see if the Weather Service is going to do that. But looking at the latest data, it looks like the inches are increasing. Winter storm watch for Ottawa and Craig County. Wouldn't also be surprised to see them put in a winter storm warning and then a winter weather advisory for the rest of our area. Nothing on radar right now, but we're watching it very, very closely. And looking down the lane, we're expecting rain to develop around midday through the early afternoon hours, and then switching over to snow by about the time rush hour gets going, and then heavy snow Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. And I'll have, of course, all the details coming up in your forecast to let you know how much we expect when we get back to the weather here in the main segment.
Authorities in Wilson County, Kansas have arrested a former Neodesha music teacher for child sex crimes. Authorities say last April, 28-year-old Quentin Bachhold tried to entice a child to perform sexual acts and was found in possession of child pornography. He is charged with 19 counts of sexual exploitation of a child and 1 count of electronic solicitation of a child. Bachhold was the band director for the Neodesha School District at the time, though he is no longer employed by the district. Today is the first day you can file your taxes with the IRS, and a local expert has some advice.
We're expecting probably some unpleasant surprises for some people.
Pat Kelly is the owner of Joplin Tax Service. He's done taxes for over 50 years. He said last year tax credits and stimulus checks during the COVID pandemic allowed for some of the largest refunds he's seen.
So we have child tax credit, earned income tax credit are the most significantly affected credits, but also a lot of people got the stimulus money in their refunds last year because they hadn't received it during the year.
Kelly said the child tax credit and earned income tax credit will significantly affect refunds.
Yeah, our clients so far that have been somewhat surprised at how, and it's not just a little reduction. We're talking refunds are being reduced by thousands of dollars relative to what they were last year.
Rebecca Tasker is just one of many filing their taxes on the first day of tax season.
So I knew that not everybody was getting bigger refunds this year because of all the stimulus and stuff that they did during COVID. I just want to do my part as a citizen and a proper U.S. citizen to pay my taxes so I don't have to go to jail. Yeah.
Regardless, Kelly said to make sure you're prepared when you go to get your taxes done.
They want to be sure that they get all their W-2s. Some people change jobs 2 or 3 times and they may forget where they worked last January and come in and file before they get that W-2, and then their return has to be amended later.
In Joplin, Carrie Worthen, KOAM News.
The last day to file your taxes is April 18th this year. Joplin schools are testing out a new pilot program for incoming kindergarten age students. It's called SOAR and will begin this fall. SOAR is designed for kids with later birthdays, typically June or July, and those who may not have access to preschool. Officials say these kids may not have the same development as their peers, so SOAR will give them a kindergarten-like setting to reach their goals.
Students who may have late birthdays or they may not have an early learning experience, some of them can start out behind simply from an exposure standpoint, but have great potential. So for example, about 1 in 2 of our kindergarten students have no early learning experience.
School officials say students participating in high-quality early childhood education are more likely to graduate high school and on average score higher on tests. Some area kids have the chance to showcase their singing talents. Crowder College is holding open auditions for 4th and 5th graders to be in the college's newly forming Crowder College Regional Children's Choir. The first meeting will be this Thursday at 6 p.m. in their Wright Conference Center. Rehearsals will be held weekly on Monday at 6 p.m. with exceptions to school holidays.
I think 4th and 5th graders kind of are left out of a lot of opportunities. There's not a lot for them except for their regular music class, and in most places. There is in some places, but it's just an experience that I want them to get at a little earlier age.
The performance will be in late April on the Neosho campus. There's no cost to participate, and students who do participate will be provided music, a folder, and a t-shirt. More than a week ago, the White House claimed the search for classified documents was over. However, we've learned there was a half-day FBI search at President Biden's Wilmington home, which turned up even more documents on Friday. Now members of the president's party are getting annoyed. Fox News correspondent Lauren Blanchard has more from Washington.
The White House says they consented to Friday's FBI search for more classified documents, allowing agents unprecedented access to the president's personal home for nearly 13 hours. It turned up 6 more classified items, this time from his years in the Senate, which he left more than a decade ago.
He takes this very seriously. You've heard directly from him. You just said that his team is cooperating fully.
We apply the facts and the law in each case in a neutral, nonpartisan manner.
Democrats who have been quick to draw contrasts with former President Trump's own classified document investigation are getting frustrated with the slow drip of information from the White House and the lack of transparency.
No one can defend having classified documents sitting at a Penn Center or a personal residence. And I believe the president will acknowledge that that was a mistake.
House Republicans want to investigate who could have had access, but there are no official visitor logs for the president's personal residences. The Secret Service, however, does keep some information on guests. Chairman of the House Oversight Committee James Comer sent a letter to the Secret Service director writing, "Given the White House's lack of transparency regarding President Biden's residential visitor logs, the committee seeks information from the Secret Service regarding who had access to his home since serving as vice president." Chairman Comer wants the Secret Service's visitor information from January 2017 to present, and he wants it by February 6th. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes this time to honor one of our 4 state heroes. Justin Cox served in the U.S. Army from 2005 to 2013. He was stationed in Iraq and received the National Defense Service Medal, an Army Commendation Medal, and the Global World Terrorism Service Medal, among other awards. We salute Justin Cox, a 4 state hero. Coming up, the latest details on the mass shooting in California.
We're learning more about the victims from Saturday's deadly mass shooting. I'm Mather Rivera in Monterey Park, California, with the latest details on the investigation. Coming up.
At least 11 people have now died from a mass shooting in Monterey Park, California. We're now learning more about the victims. Fox News correspondent Madeline Rivera has more.
Innocent lives gone after a gunman opened fire on a ballroom dance studio in Monterey Park, California.
Instead of celebrating yesterday, many families in Monterey Park were grieving or praying that their loved one will recover.
Among the victims, Mingwei Ma, a beloved dance instructor who witnesses say was the first to rush the suspected gunman. Mei Mei Nan spent years dancing at the studio. Her family says she was shot inside of her car before the suspected gunman went on his rampage.
She has started backing up and stopped because she saw a person walking by. And that was the person that shot her. And then he proceeded to enter the ballroom and start shooting everyone else.
The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office says it's possible more people could have died. After the first shooting, the suspect, 72-year-old Hu Can Tran, entered another studio in the city of Alhambra. The father of Brandon Shea says his son wrestled the gun away from the suspect.
When I received the call, I didn't know it was so serious. I thought we just got held up. I didn't find out until much later. This is a big thing.
On Sunday, Tran was found dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound inside a white van. Detectives are interviewing witnesses as they work to determine a motive.
everybody's supposed to be at home celebrating with their families, especially a lot of the Chinese and Korean kind of, and also Vietnamese families. But then this happens. How do you process all this?
LA County Police believe Tran acted alone, but they're still increasing security at other Lunar New Year celebrations. In Monterey Park, California, Mather Rivera, Fox News.
Meteorologist Sam Lane is next with a complete look at the forecast. And later, we'll hear from Chiefs head coach Andy Reid as the team prepares for its 5th straight AFC Championship appearance.
Well, friends, we had a beautiful day across the 4 states, lots of sunshine and seasonable temperatures, but it is the calm before the storm. We'll get to that in a second. But right now, let's take a look outside at Seneca, Missouri, Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. No snow on the ground yet, but that's going to be changing over the next 24 to 36 hours, including the folks down in Anderson and Seneca, Missouri area. This afternoon, we did make it up to 45 after starting out at a chilly start of 21, which was slightly below the normals of 45 and 25. Of course, we weren't anywhere near those records set back in the 60s. Here's the winter storm warnings that are currently in effect, but this is likely going to be changing as new data comes in. Right now, winter storm warning is in effect for Lawrence, Berry, Newton, and McDonald counties in Missouri, Delaware County, Oklahoma, and Benton County, Arkansas. But as I said, this is likely going to be expanded further to the north and west, looking at some of the latest data. Winter weather advisories in effect for our entire area. Winter storm watch in effect for Ottawa, Craig, and Mays counties. And again, those counties will likely also see winter storm warnings as we go through time. Right now, the big storm system is in southeastern New Mexico and southeastern Arizona. This is moving towards the east. And as it does, it's really going to pivot and intensify as it goes across northern Texas into southwestern Arkansas. And that is the perfect scenario and track for us to get really dumped on. Let's take a look at temperatures right now. Generally right at or just above freezing in some places and below freezing elsewhere. 29 in Parsons, 30 in Iola for some of the coolest readings. Meanwhile, it's 33 in Neosho and 34 in Miami for the hot spot, if you want to call 34 hot. Temperatures are generally around where they were last night at this time, maybe slightly warmer out towards the west. Dew points are also in the upper 20s to around 30 degrees. So that means the atmosphere is pretty well saturated. And when you lift that atmosphere with that system coming through, it's going to squeeze out the moisture in the form of snow. Right now it's freezing in Joplin, south-southeast wind at 5. It feels like 27 as a result. Dew point is 26 and the pressure is currently steady. Here's the precipitation chances as we go through time. Notice they really dramatically increase from around noon up to 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Then a switch over right at around rush hour and then continuing to snow from 9 p.m. onwards. And it's going to be quite heavy at times. Temperatures tonight are going to be in the upper 20s to around 30 degrees. Notice by 7:30, precipitation will start to advance in from Oklahoma. And as we go through the day, the rain moves in, changing over to snow across our area by around 4 o'clock. And then as we go through time, that snow advances across our area. And by 10 o'clock, snow will be flying across the entire area, heavy at times, especially along and south of I-44. And then as we go through Wednesday night or Wednesday morning, we're going to see the snow starting to taper off just a little bit and northwesterly winds and temperatures right around freezing. Then Wednesday afternoon, the system pulls off to the east. A few flurries still around with temperatures in the 30s on brisk northwest winds. And then as we go into Thursday morning, we're going to see lows with the snowpack. Temperatures will be in the 20s with northwesterly winds. Here's the snowfall forecast map. Now this isn't set in stone, but we're going to continue to update this over time, but this is to give you a general idea. Around 6 inches along I-44, and then south of that, higher amounts, 8 inches from Jay to Pineville to Monette on over to Springfield, and yes, 10 inches in northwestern Arkansas over towards Branson, and some places in north central Arkansas could see a foot of snow before this is all over with, and then of course lighter amounts back to the north and west. The next 7 days, if you didn't like this snowstorm, well, there's another one coming behind it towards next weekend. Still a little bit early to determine exactly how that's going to impact us, but right now we'll just call it a winter mix. But let's take one winter storm at a time, shall we?
Absolutely. It's crazy how much the weather changes within the 4 states.
Absolutely.
You know, just a few days ago, we were like, oh, we may see some snow. And then probably about 30 minutes out from the show today, you were like, hey, this is what we've got coming. And it's like,
And
okay.
there's a dramatic change between, some places in southeast Kansas will see hardly anything, but then some places will see 8 to 10 inches.
Yeah.
So it's a very fluid situation. It's very important for people to watch us on the app and to be sure to check in with Chris Warner in the morning for the latest updates.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Sam. Coming up, a farming advocacy group is sounding some alarms.
Cracking down on high egg prices. I'm Grady Trimble with Fox Business. Coming up, who's to blame for eggflation? That's next.
The price of eggs has surged 138% in the past year. And now the top of egg companies could be investigated for price gouging. Fox Business correspondent Grady Trimble is at a grocery store in Chicago with more.
A group that represents farmers and ranchers across the country wants the feds to crack down on high egg prices. Farm Action says that a small group of large egg producers is working together to fix the prices of eggs. They wrote a letter to the Federal Trade Commission saying the real culprit behind this 138% hike in the price of a carton of eggs appears to be a collusive scheme among industry leaders to turn inflationary conditions and an avian flu outbreak into an opportunity to extract egregious profits reaching as high as 40%. Barb Eastman is the owner here at Happy Foods. So what do you say about the high prices and the reason for it?
It's a market, and the birds that died, they have to be replaced, and they're coming back. The egg prices went down today, so it's coming down.
Tens of millions of egg-laying hens have been offline because of that flu outbreak. That's what the USDA blames the high prices on, and you think it's that.
I agree. They're coming back online, so it's coming back.
All right. And it is true that egg prices have more than doubled in the past year. The Biden administration also had beef with meat packers, saying they were price gouging. Same goes for oil and gas companies. But none of that has been proven to be a cause of inflation. In Chicago, Grady Trimble, Fox Business.
The Department of Justice is investigating Abbott Laboratories' infant formula plant in Sturgis, Michigan. Abbott says it plans to fully cooperate with the probe. The plant was shut down for months last year after an FDA inspection found a certain bacteria in several areas. That bacteria can be deadly to infants. Similac, Elementum, and Elecare powder infant formulas made at the plant were recalled, creating another hurdle for families struggling to get baby formula following supply chain issues. Up next, we'll learn about the latest space phenomenon captured by the James Webb Telescope. Another amazing image from the James Webb Space Telescope to share. You're looking inside a molecular cloud located 630 light years away. Molecular clouds are interstellar groupings of gas and dust where hydrogen and carbon monoxide molecules can form. Dense clumps within the clouds can collapse to form young stars called protostars. The Webb telescope focused on the chameleon, one dark molecular cloud, which appears blue in the new image. 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports coming your way. Coming up, a Southwest Missouri police officer goes above and beyond the call of duty by delivering a baby while on patrol.
Ukraine's allies are inching closer to sending battle tanks that could help push Russian forces back further east. In Kyiv, Ukraine, I'm Alex Hogan. I'll have more on this story coming up.
An officer with the Aurora and Marionville Police Department had a day that he never would have expected. He helped deliver a baby yesterday. Corporal Levi Neely jumped into action to bring baby Arya Neely Rutledge into the world. Her dad says when he realized that he may have to deliver the baby, he was terrified until he heard a knock at the door. Reporter Michael Hoffman spoke to the family.
I was extremely relieved to hear the knocking on the door and then opened it up and I saw Officer Neely there.
When Corporal Levi Neely went into work, he couldn't have imagined what would come next.
Never in my life did I dream that I would be, delivering a baby.
He responded to a call that a woman went into labor. When Neely got there, he stepped outside to wait for EMS.
And all of a sudden, Dad comes running in and said, "Hey, I see baby." And I'm like, "Oh, wow. All right." So as soon as he said that, ran to the room and said, "All right, Mom, it's your time to shine."
Seconds later, Neely had a newborn baby in his arms.
We're police officers. We're not we're not trained to, deliver babies. We're here to, make sure we enforce laws and do all those kinds of things. So it was quite a different aspect of your job.
Mom and Dad, Troy and Michelle Rutledge, were relieved too. So much that baby Aria's middle name is Neely.
We had been working on a middle name this whole time. We had not had a middle name picked yet, but now we are going to have her middle name be Neely, as was his name, the officer who delivered my daughter today.
After his baby was born, all he wanted to do was say thank you.
Yeah, I kind of saw that after the whole situation died down and they took her away in the ambulance. I told him thank you, and he just had this look on his face, and I was like, yeah, me too.
And Mom, I hate to break it to you, but her middle name isn't the only one that's significant.
I need to know, is that anything to do with Game of Thrones at all?
Yes, it is.
Really?
Yeah, see, the thing is, she didn't follow the show, and I did, and Ari was my favorite character, and so I was waiting until after the birth to tell her where the name came from, so we're in.
That's awesome. Birth certificate's already done?
Yeah, it's done. It's a done deal. We're good. There are no takebacks.
The father added that they're looking forward to introducing baby Aria to Corporal Neely as she grows up. The South Coffeyville, Oklahoma School Board today held a public meeting to discuss a proposed bond. If approved by voters, the $1 million bond would fund the construction of a new gymnasium. It would be paid for with a mill rate increase for taxpayers over a 10-year period.
We need a gym. We have a lot of kids, and we use this facility where I'm standing in right now is used 8 hours a day, almost 7 days a week, and so it's time for us to do something.
There are no set plans yet. However, ideas of where the gym will go underway. The FDA says it wants to simplify how Americans stay up to date on COVID-19 booster vaccinations. The agency says in documents posted today, it wants the process to be more like getting a flu shot. That would mean assessing what COVID strands are circulating in June and then preparing a dose for the fall. Ukraine's NATO allies are inching closer to providing battle tanks badly needed in the fight against the Russians in eastern Ukraine. Fox News correspondent Alex Hogan has more from Kyiv, Ukraine.
Germany is defending its aid to Ukraine following new criticism from NATO allies. Over the weekend, Germany said it would not block Poland and other nations from sending the German-made Leopard tanks to Ukraine, but Germany is holding on to its own Leopards for now, saying it hasn't ruled out donating the tanks, but a decision on the matter has yet to be made. And on Monday, the German government pushed back on critics who claim the country isn't doing enough to support Ukraine.
We are taking our time. You can criticize that by saying it has to happen very quickly and very violently now. At the same time, our government has a responsibility.
But Germany is under intense pressure as Russia ramps up its eastern offensive. The Ukrainians are reportedly planning a counteroffensive aimed at pushing Russian forces back from the key city of Bakhmut, citing mounting casualties and strained supply lines on the Russian side.
They're defending 1,300 miles of a defensive line. Low morale, poorly trained. They are vulnerable to the kind of attack that Zelensky and his generals want to conduct here.
The Russians are making slow and steady progress. They're now about 5 miles south of Bakhmut. And Ukrainian forces say if they're going to hold on to the city, they'll need those tanks soon.
I want to live and I want to support my country. If you wait, maybe Russia will be in Poland tomorrow.
Some U.S. lawmakers are calling for the U.S. to send its Abrams tanks, but the Pentagon argues that that would be a bad fit for the Ukrainian military. In Kyiv, Ukraine, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
A bit later, a high-profile court case.
A South Carolina court interviewing hundreds of potential jurors who will decide the fate of disgraced former attorney Alex Murdaugh. I'm Jonathan Seri in Atlanta. I'll have the latest on this double murder trial coming up.
Well, folks, it is the calm before the storm, and it's a big winter storm, and we're going to talk more about that in just a moment. But let's enjoy the nice air that we have out there right now at Seneca, Missouri at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. No snow on the ground yet, but that will be changing as we go through the next 24 to 36 hours. All right, let's take a look at the high today. It was 45, which was actually right on target for normal, a little bit below on the low. 21 this morning, and 25 is the normal low. And records are way back in the 1960s. Here's a look at the radar right now. It is all clear. However, winter storm warnings are in effect in the pink area here. That includes Lawrence, Berry, Newton, as well as McDonald counties, Delaware County in Oklahoma, and Benton County, Arkansas. Winter storm watch in Ottawa and Craig County, as well as Mays. And then the rest of the area is in a winter weather advisory. So there's lots of winter weather to go around for everyone. And here's the big storm. It's now centered over southwestern New Mexico. This thing is going to move to the east and then eject out into northeast Texas, into southwest Arkansas. And it's taking a perfect track for us to be in what we call the Bear Clinic zone, which is back behind the surface low along I-44. And that's where the axis of the heaviest snow tends to fall. We'll have to wait and see exactly how that's going to play out, but that's the way it's looking right now. All right, let's take a look at temperatures. Right now, they're generally in the upper 20s to around 30 degrees. 34 in Miami as well as Welch for some of the warmest readings. And we're generally around a few degrees warmer than they were last night at this time, but we're generally staying steady right now. But temperatures are going to be falling into the 20s tonight in some locations. Dew points are high as well, so the atmosphere is pretty well saturated. And when you lift this atmosphere and you start creating those snow crystals, it doesn't have any problem reaching the surface. Right now it's 32 degrees in Joplin, freezing. Feels like 27, dew point 26, and the pressure is currently steady. Here's the precipitation chances as we go through the day tomorrow. They start to increase as we go through the afternoon as rain. Then it switches over to snow around the rush hour, and then remains all snow all the way until rush hour on Wednesday morning. And it's going to be quite a mess across the area. Temperatures are going to be in the 20s tomorrow morning. Rain is going to be developing in Oklahoma, and as we go through the day, that rain advances across our area, and by rush hour, it will start to be switching over to snow across our region, especially in Oklahoma and Arkansas. Then as we go through time, it all switches over to snow, and by 10 o'clock tomorrow night, snow will be flying across the entire area with temperatures right at or just below freezing. Then as we go through Wednesday morning, that storm starts to move off to the east, but we'll still have some area light snow, especially in Missouri. Then by afternoon, that moves to the east, and temperatures will still be in the 30s with the snowpack on northwesterly winds. And that snowpack will help temperatures drop down into the 20s on Thursday morning. So, of course, no melting. It'll be like a glacier out there with readings in the mid-20s. Here's a look at the snowfall forecast accumulations. Right now, I'm thinking around 6 inches here in the Joplin area, heavier amounts to the south, including 8 inches in Monette, Cassville, Pineville, down to Jay, and yes, even a foot of snow possible in north central Arkansas, around Bentonville, around 10 inches, and of course lighter amounts back towards the north and west. The next 7 days, well, if this wasn't enough for you, we have another winter possible storm on next weekend, but hopefully we'll get through this one, and then we'll dry out for a little bit before the next one arrives. And then the extended forecast, it looks like it's going to be turning bitter cold around here the early part of next week. So winter is not giving up the ghost yet.
Yeah, not at all. We just got to hunker down for a few days, break the coats back out, and then we'll be all right.
Yeah, just be sure to check us out on our website and the app, and Chris Warner in the morning for the latest updates.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thank you, Sam. Coming up in sports, Missouri Southern hosts Lincoln for a conference doubleheader. Plus, we'll hear from Chiefs head coach Andy Reid as the team prepares for an AFC Championship rematch with the Cincinnati Bengals. Jacob Leonard has that and more next.
The Missouri Southern Lions are at home tonight, hosting a conference doubleheader against Lincoln. On the women's side, the Lions have gotten on a roll in the last 2 weeks, winning 4 straight games to get to 16-4 overall this season. The Southern 8-4 in the MIAA, trying to stay hot tonight, and the Blue Tigers their 3rd straight loss. Really hot start for Southern. Lacey Stokes, defender flies by. Stokes hits the short jumper. She leads MSSU with 15 tonight. Then Caitlin Honeycutt open for 3 on the far side. She knocks it down. Finally, Haley Grant. Great move in the lane. Spins and finishes, plus the foul. Lions up 10 after 1. Grant 11.7 boards tonight. To the second quarter, more from Southern. Maddie Stokes. Pretty easy 2 here. Stokes gets 14 points, 9 rebounds. The Lions by 19 at halftime. They really finished the thing in the third. Cameron Call drills the deep ball. All Southern in this one. They lead from start to finish and win 84-45.
The message was really just don't take our foot off the gas. we've been in a little bit of a slump lately as a team, and for us to come out and just kill it in the first half and then come back out and do the same thing in the second half was really big for us, and I think it's going to give us a lot of momentum to finish out this week and go into next.
We have a couple big games coming up that we needed to get the ball rolling to go into the next games with lots of confidence, knowing that our defense is good and that we're going to shut people down. So getting that win tonight and really coming out and playing good defense, it just really helps us get going for the rest of our season.
After that, the Southern men hit the floor against Lincoln, aiming for their 9th win in the last 11 games. The first half, Christian Bundy working inside. Nice finish with the left. He leads Southern with 17, but Lincoln up 7 at the under 10 timeout. The Lions trying to hang around. Vincent Sigmund Jr. Pull-up 3 is good. He scores 16 for Moso. Lincoln played pretty well in the first half. 3 goes here. They were up double digits. Southern climbs back in it, though, right before half. Avery Taggart beats the buzzer. He scores 11. The Lions come up just a little short tonight. Lincoln wins at 84-79. The Kansas State Wildcats move up the national rankings this week. The Wildcats are up 8 spots to number 5 in the latest AP poll released today. Last week, K-State beat rival Kansas and then Texas Tech. Now they're all alone at the top of the Big 12 standings. KU, by the way, slips down from number 2 to number 9. They lost that game to K-State Tuesday and then got whacked by TCU on Saturday. Kansas is 1 game behind K-State for first place in the Big 12. The Kansas City Chiefs are back in the AFC Championship game for the 5th consecutive season. The Chiefs host the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday, with the winner advancing to Super Bowl 57. Sunday's game is a rematch of last year's AFC Championship and a rematch from the regular season this year. Cincinnati won both. They've beaten Kansas City in 3 straight meetings. Now, the Chiefs are 1-point favorites at home this time, and they know it's going to be another tough test against the Bengals team that's on an 8-game winning streak and has been in this situation before.
We know they're talented in all 3 phases. It's the same guys playing against each other, so I'm sure both teams will have adjustments that they make, and both teams will play hard, and we'll just see how. I mean, these games have been close, so we'll just see where it goes. Come game time.
There are not 2 quarterbacks I like to watch more than those 2 that are going to be in that game, and I'm hoping this game is what I thought Buffalo-Cincinnati was going to be over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that I'm going to be looking for is the same thing that we looked for in their matchup against Buffalo. How is that O-line going to hold up? I'm going to take my money on the Chiefs O-line just because they have better players than the Buffalo Bills do, but it should be a fun one for sure.
The Bengals O-line held up better than I thought it would last week. If they hold up again this week, it's going to be a good finish.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that's it for sports. We'll be back with more after this. Alex Murdaugh, who was once a prominent lawyer in South Carolina, is on trial. He's accused of gunning down his wife and youngest son. Separately, the former attorney is also accused of embezzling money from his law firm and stealing millions of dollars in settlement money from his clients. His money troubles expected to play a big role in this double murder case. Fox News correspondent Jonathan Seri has details.
The trial is underway for disgraced former attorney Alec Murdaugh, who is charged in the killings of his wife and son. The Colleton County Court whittling down the pool of 900 potential jurors to find 12 plus 2 alternates to determine his fate.
Do you believe that relationship would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror?
Murdaugh is charged in the deaths of his 52-year-old wife, Maggie, and the couple's 22-year-old son, Paul. On June 7, 2021, the pair was found shot to death on the grounds of the family's rural South Carolina home. Murdaugh called 911, saying he returned home and discovered the bodies. Since then, he has maintained he had nothing to do with their slayings. It took more than a year to investigate and charge the now 54-year-old with 2 counts of murder. The trial is expected to take about a month. It's unclear if Murdaugh will take the stand.
It would be a disaster. It would be a bomb in the courtroom if Murdaugh takes the stand because he can't be controlled.
The prosecution is expected to paint a picture of the once prominent attorney trying to gain sympathy to cover his financial distress. Although this case focuses only on the murder of his family, he's facing roughly 100 criminal charges. Monday morning, ahead of the trial, the defense filed a motion to block testimony on blood found on a shirt Murdaugh was wearing the night of the murders. The state not seeking the death penalty. Still, Murdaugh is facing 30 years to life in prison without parole if convicted. The defense is expected to argue the state has no evidence Murdaugh killed his family. In Atlanta, Jonathan Siri, Fox News.
Coming up, we'll learn the story behind the millions of dollars of stolen antiquities that were returned to Italy. Only a few police units in the world investigate stolen antiquities in order to return cultural treasures to their rightful homes. One such unit has just returned dozens of looted artifacts to Italy. They're worth millions of dollars, but to Italy, they're priceless. And now they're on display. Barbie Latson the Doe has the story.
These ancient artifacts, worth some $20 million, represent the latest success for Italy's Carabinieri Cultural Heritage Squad. Many were trafficked and ended up in the collection of American billionaire Michael Steinhardt, who has been banned for life from acquiring antiquities by the New York City District Attorney. Among them, this fresco stolen from Herculaneum near Pompeii, and this bronze bust of a man dating back to around the 1st century CE or late BCE.
Long investigation. That's it.
They are back in Italy thanks to New York City's Antiquities Trafficking Unit, led by Colonel Matthew Bogdanos.
These are not just pieces of marble and limestone and frescoes. These represent our shared cultural heritage. In one respect, they belong to the world. But legally, for my purposes, they belong to the country of origin from which they were pillaged.
The New York unit has carried out 75 raids and recovered 500 artifacts worth $55 million that have been returned to Italy, Bogdanos told us.
Restituirle al patrimonio dello Stato, alla nostra identità culturale.
But their real value is their place in Italy's rich cultural identity, Carabinieri Cultural Heritage Squad Commander Vincenzo Molinesi says.
Pericoloso per la loro integrità.
Many of these pieces that were in museums and private galleries end up in storage facilities once back in Italy.
The artifacts must go back to their home country. That's fundamental. Even if they're not the most important pieces compared to, let's say, the rich collections that exist in Italy, the point is they were robbed from this country. They deserve to go back to their home country.
There may be cause for celebration now, but these pieces represent only a drop in the bucket. Authorities say that more pieces are being stolen every moment.
Well, that's our time for tonight, and thank you guys so much for joining us. But before you go, we'll leave you with a video of dogs at Key West Wienerpalooza Parade. Be safe, and we'll do this all again tomorrow. See you then.